What's up, guys? I'm Landon from Shoeware, and today we're putting the newest models from Kyrie Irving and LeBron James shoe lines with Nike head to head to see how they compare. But really quick, if this is your first time checking us out, feel free to drop a follow or subscribe wherever you're watching and give this video a like. We would greatly appreciate that. So starting off with the box and the price, I'm not sure if all of these Kyrie 8s will follow this exact same design since, you know, this is one of the first colorways. But as you can see, you're going to have that Kyrie text kind of show up in an oval pattern. And then this is where it gets somewhat confusing because you either have an infinity sign or a sideways 8. So, you know, Nike has the grade school sizes labeled as the Kyrie Infinity, but most other sites have it as the Kyrie 8. So, you know, it most likely is the Kyrie 8 in the progression of his shoe line, but you know, maybe it's just going to go by different names or like even a name combo like Kyrie Infinity 8 or the Kyrie 8 Infinity. You know, either way, it doesn't really matter. But switching it over, the LeBron 19s do also have a lot of details going into this black box. And I do like how the LJ logo on top is see-through. I did think that was a nice touch. But, you know, as for pricing, the Kyrie 8s haven't officially released yet, you know, in men's sizing. So that kind of keeps on getting pushed back. And I got tired of waiting, so I did go ahead and pay over retail just to get these in early to check them out. So I'm not totally sure on what the retail price is going to be. The grade school sizes are labeled for 110 on Nike. So I know some sneaker sites have the Kyrie 8 or the Kyrie Infinity showing at 130, which, you know, would be the same as last year's Kyrie 7. So, I mean, that sounds reasonable to go with, but that does leave a pretty big separation between these two lines because LeBron's newest shoe is going to be retailing for $200 even, you know. That's going to make that the most expensive shoe on the market right now, just as far as a signature shoe line.
You can't play a player, baby. That's just how the game goes.
All right, so doing a quick rundown for the appearance of these shoes and starting off with the colorways. Today we're checking out the Nike Kyrie 8 or Kyrie Infinity in this aluminum colorway versus the LeBron 19 sweatsuit. So this is one of like a handful of color schemes that are out there for this new Kyrie model. And, you know, I think it looks pretty clean. For the LeBron 19 sweatsuit colorway, that was the first one to hit the market. It's kind of like a Space Jam collab or a theme is what this whole color scheme is. And you're going to see some markings on the upper that actually make out a map of Nike's world headquarters and the Warner Brothers lot. So you can see them a little bit better if you peel back that top layer. And then you're also going to get like a Space Jam themed insole on these shoes. So before I get deeper into these shoes, I just want to talk about, if you guys remember, how Kyrie came out months ago saying that he hated his upcoming shoe and that he just wasn't going to wear it. So it kind of happened around the beginning of the NBA season whenever he was deciding if he was going to get the vaccine to play for the Nets or not. So I'm assuming Nike either changed the model or, you know, just got him on board or something because, you know, clearly they did end up releasing and I actually think they look nice. So as far as the structure, all of the shoes in his line, they've kind of looked similar as far as height goes, but there is a Kyrie 4 low version of his line. But other than that, you know, they all pretty much follow the same kind of like mid-top look. But in general, it does look closer to the Kyrie 6. This Kyrie Infinity looks closer to the Kyrie 6 with that curved midsole instead of, you know, the shark tooth design that showed up on the Kyrie 7. You're also going to get a wavy heel design that does remind me of like the Don issue 2 from the Adidas line. And honestly, I think it looks really clean. And then for this specific colorway, you do get an hourglass design that shows up on the right tongue for the shoe. You also have an X or like a crossing pattern that kind of runs underneath the laces. That does look cool, but it has a practical use that I'll get into in a second. At least that outer part of that design does. But, you know, overall a super nice design for this Kyrie Infinity. And, you know, now that he's back on the court, I mean, we should hopefully see the official release coming soon with some more colorways to follow. But, you know, switching it over to the LeBron 19s, they definitely made some noticeable switches from last year's design. So it does look a little bit more like a LeBron shoe after kind of building it up a little bit higher than the 18s. You're also going to have like a little air bubble that kind of runs around the back side of the heel that, you know, I think is a pretty cool setup. But they did take off the 3 air bubbles that ran up the tongue from last year's LeBron 18 model. And, you know, I didn't like that anyway, so I'm glad that they did. But, you know, altogether, definitely not a bad design to this newest addition to LeBron's line.
You can't play a player, baby. That's just how the game goes.
All right, so now looking at the performance performance and the materials aspect to see how these shoes hold up on the court. We'll start off with the cushioning for the Kyrie 8. So these are packed with a lot more cushioning features than what we've seen in Kyrie's line before. So lately, Kyrie's shoe line is kind of positioned either those units in the front of the shoe or in the back of the shoe, but not typically in both. I know the Kyrie 7s from last year had that, unit in the front half of the shoe, that Air Zoom Turbo unit, but luckily this Kyrie 8 is actually going to have it in both spots. So you're going to get more of a generic, Air Zoom unit that's positioned in the heel, but it is going to be better than nothing. And you can actually see it through that Infinity logo on the outsole, or if you just take out the insole and peek through it that way. But in the forefoot, you're going to have a Zoom Strobel unit, and you can see that labeled on the outsole as well. In that traction pattern, it's going to have that like FF Zoom Strobel for, forefoot Zoom Strobel. So these are like super bouncy to play in. You can literally feel that unit compress just when you're kind of jumping around. And you're also going to have a Phylon midsole that is built to be lightweight and responsive. That's going to handle most of your impact protection really well whenever you're landing from your shot, or just landing in general from a jump. But I haven't played in every shoe from Kyrie's line. I did miss a few in the middle, but honestly this might be the most comfy shoe in his line, just up until this point. But shifting it over to the LeBron 19, these are going to have a Cushlon foam midsole, which is meant to be a little more soft and responsive than Phylon, and you can kind of tell that the cushion is definitely a key whenever Nike is creating LeBron's shoes in his line. So you're going to get a Zoom Air unit positioned in the forefoot that's going to be paired with some thick Max Air units that you can actually see. They're kind of visible through the side of the shoe if you peek through that. So, a lot of cushioning features are packed in to the LeBron 19 as well. And you can actually see them at work whenever you're applying pressure to the shoe. I mean, impact protection is really nice on this design, and keeping a soft and comfortable feel has always been a focal point for LeBron's shoe line, but it honestly was nice to see the Kyrie Infinity kind of take a step forward in that category this year.
You can't play a player, baby, that's just how the game goes.
Alright, so for the materials and the support, the Kyrie 8s go with what most basketball shoes are using on the upper now, and that's going to be some textiles, and there's lots of benefits to doing this. So it does keep a shoe lightweight and breathable, and with the textiles, you're also going to get more of a secure feel, just thanks to that plastic, compared to some knit designs. But there's also going to be some nicer materials on the back half of the shoe, kind of around the ankle. You get more of like a leather feel there. So it is going to fall more in line with the Kyrie 6, like I was mentioning. The Kyrie 7s were pretty much just textiles from the front of the shoe all the way to the back. But for the 8s, you're also going to get that X, or kind of more that like wing design that runs around the outside of the laces. And that's going to be there for added lockdown. And I'm talking about, the black straps on the outside that the laces kind of feed through. But that is going to signify a black strap that's going to run all the way around your foot, around your heel. And it's just going to give you a much more secure feel. It kind of tightens your foot into that spot. Then the straps also work their way around the toe of the shoe as well. They kind of run up forwards, and you can kind of see it with that blue line that runs across the toe box. It kind of shows you where that strap begins and where it ends. So I thought that was a pretty cool feature, but it just all kind of adds to like pull your foot really nice into the shoe, giving you really good ankle stability. So good support for Kyrie's line. It never really struggles in that area. But for the LeBron 19s, they did make a change from the knit pasta design last year, and they added some really nice pieces. So you're going to get a full inner sleeve that kind of conforms to your foot, and you can see how the laces kind of feed up through that outer piece, through that overlay for a tighter feel. You're also going to get a little outrigger that kind of protrudes out from the design just a little bit, kind of gives you somewhat of a wider base. You're also going to have a transparent flywire cable that kind of extends up from the midsole, and all of these pieces are going to add to the support, making it so much better than last year's setup. I mean, the knit design for the LeBron 18s had way too much give. There was really no pieces geared for support on last year's model, but as I just mentioned, all those pieces right there, you can see that there's multiple. So I did love the designs that Nike made to this year.
You can't play a player, baby, that's just how the game goes.
So to finish off with traction, the Kyrie 8 went away from that computer-generated pattern that was on the Kyrie 7s, and while this still is a data-driven pattern, it still has a better flow to it in my opinion. So it's not going to be a traditional herringbone setup, but it is pretty close with those jagged lines that kind of cover that interior pattern, and it's going to be really similar to the Dame 7 Extended Play series, just how those looked from last year's release. So the outsole does extend a little bit from the shoe, kind of where that lightning bolt pattern that kind of outlines the the interior design that protrudes out from the design just a little bit. But I also bought a pair with an XDR outsole, so it should be much more durable rubber, so I'm excited about that. And I do think the traction does feel slightly better than last year's model. It's still pretty early, so it's kind of tough to tell, but for the LeBron 19, I mean, his shoe line hasn't really shined in this category for the last few years now. Maybe improved a little bit from the LeBron 18s, but just not by much. This is a new pattern that's kind of meant to resemble the LJ Crown logo, kind of condensed down, and it's not bad to play in, but it's definitely not sticky, like not a sticky feel. They do have some slipping going on still, but to finish off with sizing, both of these shoes should run pretty true to your normal size. The LeBron 19s are definitely on the heavy side, with all the stuff that they put into this shoe. So the Kyrie 8s are a little more sleek to look at. Both of these shoes do run a little bit on the narrow side though. So if you'd like some extra room to play in, you may want to consider going a half size up.
You can't play a player, baby. That's just how the game goes.
So for the final ratings and starting off with the appearance, like I said, I do think both of these models are nice, but the Kyrie Infinity kind of looks more like something that I'd play ball in. I just don't really love the wings to kind of run up around this ankle for the LeBron 19, so it's not a bad look, but I will side with the Kyrie Infinity. But as for cushioning, you do have two really nice cushion setups. LeBron's line is kind of focused on cushion for a while now, but with the upgrades that Nike put into this year's Kyrie Infinity model, I am just going to leave that section as a tie. The LeBrons maybe feel a little bit softer, but it's kind of early on in my playing experience with the Kyries, and they do just have a really springy feel, so it's just not wide enough separation to really choose a side. But as for the materials, with the LeBron 19s retailing for $200, I actually am going to go that way. It's not really a knock on the Kyrie 8s because, they do have some really nice touches, like you get that leather piece, that leather patch that's kind of around the ankle, but, Nike did make a lot of improvements to the materials, and they kind of trickled down for the LeBron 19s as well. So I know the LeBron 18, it's just struggled a lot for support for me, but with the flywire cable that they added, along with that inner sleeve that the laces kind of go through, like I mentioned, you get a little bit of an outrigger. I mean, really, they just pretty much fixed all of those problems for the LeBron 19. But for the Kyrie Infinity, you're also going to have those straps that kind of wrap around your ankle, and his line is just always really nice for containment. In general, I've never really struggled with Kyrie's line at all, so I will keep that section as a tie since there was no issue with either one of these lines. But to finish off with traction, I'm just still not really on board with what the LeBron 19 has going on. It just hasn't felt the best, and at least the Kyrie Infinity, they did kind of develop a actual pattern going on for this year's model, so I'm going to give a slight edge there. So honestly, this is a really close competition, but for me, I am going to side with the Kyrie Infinity to win this performance battle. It's going to really come down to how you like your shoe to look, and I guess how you like it to feel a little bit. I definitely like the price for the Kyrie Infinity a lot better, and I also like that they're lightweight, and they just there's really not a downside to this year's model. The traction could maybe get a little better, but you could definitely say the same thing for the LeBron 19. So, neither shoe is bad here, but I just prefer to play in the Kyrie Infinity overall. So if you're interested in buying one or both of these shoes and you want to support our channel, we do have an affiliate link in the description that gives us a little bit of commission that just goes back into reviewing more shoes. So feel free to check that out. But that wraps up this performance comparison. Feel free to leave a comment below if you like this video, or just let us know any other shoes you want to see go head to head. But until next review, I'm Landon from Shoeware. Peace.
You can't play a player, baby. That's just how the game goes. All I'm focused